Functions of the DNS server. The DNS server will use recursion, which is a function in which the DNS server issues a series of iterative queries to another DNS server while responding to a recursive query that the DNS client issues. An iterative queries are a request for the best possible answer that the DNS server can provide. And again, I told you I'd talk a little more about forwarders. Forwarder types, there are a couple different types of forwarders. You can use this a forwarder or a conditional forwarder. In the future, we may use forwarders for our partner companies, just in case we were to expand, so that they would not need to replicate with our system, our network that we have now, or so that they wouldn't have to go out and use root hints to get the name resolution that they're looking for. A little bit on forwarders. When a DNS name server receives a query, it attempts to locate the requested information within its own zone files, which I talked about a little bit ago. If the attempt fails, either because the server is not authoritative for the domain requested, or because it does not have the record cache from its previous lookup, then the server must contact other DNS servers outside of the local zone, which may require interaction with DNS name servers across the wide area network, which is also known as a WAN. You may have already heard that expression a little bit. If you haven't, you will pretty soon. Conditional forwarders allows a DNS server to forward requests to other DNS servers using a specific domain name, and adds another layer of logic forwarding to the process, such as allowing servers to selectively forward requests to other DNS servers using a domain name condition. You can configure forwarding to request the DNS servers that are authoritative for specific zones. So with the conditional forwarder, you can actually tell it to go out and look for this forwarder with this name attached to it. And I do believe we're moving on to WINS, and that will be TJ is up for that. Yeah, I'll take my spot back.
Why are you going to be pushy?
Make you wait a little longer.
Good morning, my name's TJ, Your Honor.
How long do you have?
And I'll be talking about WINS, which stands for Windows Internet Name Service. WINS resolves NetBIOS names to IP addresses. NetBIOS is mostly in older versions of Windows, such as Windows NT, 95, 98. But 2000 and up can use it, but they mainly use it for older applications. The NetBIOS name, they're 15 characters long. The 16th one is a suffix. The example would be WinServer 01 compared to a DNS name, which is a fully qualified domain name, and it would be winserver01.ncis.com. Some of the WinServer's components is a WinServer, which is a computer that has name resolution and registration service. The server replicates the database to other WINS servers, so it's available wherever a WINS client uses it. A WINS client, it's a computer that talks with the WINS server to resolve NetBIOS names or releases the names. A WINS proxy, I will be talking about that later, is a client computer that acts on non-Windows enabled computers. The database is just an updated list of NetBIOS names and IP addresses. The LM host files, they have the list of the NetBIOS names and the IP addresses. And this is the location of your LM host file. Down here would be the actual NetBIOS names. You got your IP addresses and the NetBIOS name over there. In our structure, we put a WINS server in each domain. So so they could replicate information to each other. And for this to happen, we had to set up replication partners. And the primary and secondary Win servers need to point to each other. Well, the primary needs to point to itself and then point to the secondary. The secondary can point to the primary and then it points to the secondary. And they are set to push-pull information by default. We did not choose to just push or just pull, but if you did choose to configure push, make sure you push on the number of changes, and if you configure to pull, you have to pull on the time. Burst handling, it queues requests that exceed the default limit. So if the power went out and all the machines started back up and they all tried to reconnect, the burst handling would control that and send a positive message, and they would be connected as soon as they could. The static mapping, it's normally on operating systems that can't register NetBIOS names. They're added in the LM-host file, and they can stay forever unless removed by an administrator. And this is the Win's proxy agent. Linux, Mac, and Unix are non-Windows systems and need a proxy agent in order to resolve NetBIOS names. And they are located in your registry. Well, you have to set it up in your registry in order for Linux, Mac, and Unix to register NetBIOS names. And here is an example. You would have to change this to a 1 in order to turn it on. And now I'm moving to the 2.
I'll be speaking a little bit about Active Directory users and computers. We use a specific naming convention to more easily identify user counts within the domains in the Active Directory. Naming conventions should be used to uniquely identify users and to identify users with exact names. It may also be useful to differentiate between different types of employees, such as temporaries or contract employees. Also, it makes it easier to identify where a particular computer is located. The user account naming convention should be consistent throughout the domain, and domain logon names should be unique throughout the forest. The naming conventions to be used for user logons is up to 4 letters for the department, the last name, and the first name, and the first letter of the first name, which is seen here. Setting up the naming convention this way should reduce the instances of duplicate names, and if there's still a case where the name is duplicated still, then you just add on to the first, add on letters to the first name. The best way to set up domain user accounts is to place user accounts in a hierarchy based on the way that they are managed. The hierarchy can either be geopolitical or based on a business model. When using geopolitical design, the parent organizational units are set up by physical location, which is either a city, state, region, whichever way. When using the business model, place the users according to departmental classifications, such as sales or manufacturing. We use a combination of both systems. We use the geopolitical structure for the domains. It should make it more flexible to add or remove businesses. Just plug them into whatever section that they belong.